And there she is. It's sort of like magic, but not really. I was going to wear something a little bit more dark and mysterious to fit this episode's theme, but then I remembered what day it was, and, well, instead, here is the red-headed liquor goblin of your worst nightmares. Because why? Well, it's St. Patrick's Day, and it's the one day a year that I am legally able to commit whiskey-fueled acts of chaos and arson. It's allowed. I'm Irish. Everyone that's Irish is allowed to commit one felony on St. Patrick's Day. Look it up. It's like the Purge, but with shamrocks and shit. So to that end, I'm going to make myself a little drinky drink. Oh my God. So this is a tea. We're going to make a shamrocks and shit. That's what I'm going to call it. That is what is happening right now while y'all guys kind of join in here. So we got our tea going. And some apple juice, of course, because I'm an adult. And it's St. Patrick's Day. And why not? So, pour that in there. Kind of just let that keep going. Oh, ooh. Pour it off camera. Heck yes. Okay. So, welcome back to... Yes, indeed. Indeedy. So, welcome back to the colony of shadow beings that live under the stairs, the Dead Hours. And hold on one second. I'm trying to get the chat to go here, and here we go. There we go. Cool beans. Let me start that over. So welcome back to the colony of shadow beings that live under the stairs, the Dead Hours, and I'm their leader and the future ghost with the most, Vivian Noir. So I thought I would take a little bit of a break from serial killers this week to present some like fun, unsolved cases and like little bite-sized mini mystery things as a breather between like heavier subjects. That was the idea. Anyway. Is that what happened? Stay tuned to find out on this week's episode of Abso-fucking-lutely Not. Absolutely not. I dived far down the rabbit hole on this one. So far, in fact, that I am positive I have landed myself on a watch list in some capacity. So if I suddenly turn up dead or missing, just saying. Anywho's, here comes the content warning. Please be advised that this episode of The Dead Hours Presents the Murder Corner does contain inappropriate language and photos of crime scenes that are not suitable for younger or more sensitive viewers or listeners. And just like that, you have been warned. So, this story involves a lot of intrigue, twists, turns, and not one, not two, but three ultimately unsolved mysteries. Just like that. Are the cases connected? No, they could be. So let's get into it. On May 31st, 1995, a woman calling herself Jennifer Fairgate checked in at the Oslo Palace Hotel, with a Lois Fairgate listed as her companion. She checked in, oddly, without showing a passport or any kind of photo identification or even a credit card. After 3 days on June 3rd, and after being denied several times by the resident of the room any kind of update on payment, an employee went to room 2805 where Miss Fairgate was staying and proceeded to ask for a credit card or another method of payment. They then heard a gunshot. The employee left to get assistance from security, leaving the room unattended for 15 minutes. When security breached the room, they noticed an acrid smell and discovered the body of a woman, assumed to be Jennifer Fairgate, on the bed, on her back, with a bullet hole in her forehead. It seemed like a clean-cut case of suicide, but as... Yeah, point of order. Nothing about that seems like a clean-cut case of suicide to me. Already, it's like... It's looking pretty sus already to me. People don't usually shoot themselves in the forehead, like between the eyes. Like that's not usually if somebody's going to kill themselves with a gun. That is not one of the ways that they do it. I don't know what it's not it. It's not it, and I'm not here for it. So already, there's some weird circumstances here. So woman checks in, no ID, which still really don't know how she managed to do that at a hotel. I mean, granted, it was 1995, but it was 1995. We're not talking like the 60s or like, you know, where you could get on a plane with no identification and no luggage and just like pay for a plane ticket and get on a plane just like that. This is 1995, so a little bit more modern. You still needed ID to check into a hotel. Yeah, exactly. Red flags all over the freaking place. No credit card. And it was the fact that they didn't just tell this woman to fucking take a hike. Weird. So let's continue. It just gets weirder from here, guys. More details emerged about the mysterious woman and the circumstances that surrounded her death. It seemed like there was much more than met the eye. On looking at the available evidence, the going theory is that the woman was a spy, and her death, a murder, was in fact covered up. This case was featured prominently in Season 2 of Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix in the episode A Death in Oslo. In the Unsolved Mysteries episode, intelligence expert Ola Kaldager supports the spy theory. As the E-14 group leader for the Norwegian intelligence service, he cites the position of the alleged suicide weapon as a big red flag. The victim fired a 9mm semi-automatic Browning pistol and was found with her thumb gripping the trigger. No one holds a gun like that. Like, full cap, nobody holds a gun like that unless you have never held a gun before in your life. You would literally maybe hold it like, is this how you do it? Like, nobody holds a gun that way. And that's not a gun that you would own if you didn't know how to use a gun. That's also a thing, you know? So you can see that is an actual like crime scene photo of the gun in her hand. That is such an awkward position. So not only was the shot itself awkward because it was through the forehead, but the gun is held like that. You'd have to do that. Red flag. No. Due to the weapon's powerful recoil, one interviewee describes the pistol as, quote, an assault weapon. It's pretty improbable that the gun would have remained in the deceased's hand after being held in such an awkward way. Not to mention the suspicious lack of blood or blowback on Fairgate's hand, which are commonly found in gunshot suicides. Which is nowhere to be found here. No blood on the hand at all. No blood on the arm. When somebody kills themselves, especially with that powerful of a gun, you're going to have blowback onto the hand that is holding the gun. That gun would have been knocked out of her hand the moment it snapped back and recoiled because of the way it's being held. So it would have just yeeted across the room under its own power, and they would have not found it in her hand. And there's not a drop of blood on her hand. Don't need a Sherlock Holmes cap for that one, y'all. More probable is that the gun was hastily placed there after the fact. The police destroyed the surviving evidence upon closing the case and ruling it a suicide, but the gun did emerge years later during Lars Christian Wagner's independent journalistic investigation, and tests reveal that it had been wiped clean. This evidence was not included in the Unsolved Mysteries episode. So also kind of sus that, I mean, there is sus all over this, like just written, engraved even all over this. The fact that the police destroyed all of the evidence after it was like hastily declared a suicide. Basically, they walked in the room and went, yep, she's got a gun in her hand and there's a shot in her head. Looks like she did it to herself. Case closed, pat on the back, let's go home. Like, let's just throw everything away because we won't need the evidence anymore. Let's just put it in a big bucket and just send it down the river because fuck it. That's why. Because we're never going to look into this again. It was clearly a suicide. This woman was holding the gun weird. It was clearly a suicide. Move on. Like, okay. Okay. If the woman killed herself, why does the lack of evidence point to a cover-up of her death? The gun does point to Jennifer Fairgate having been murdered, but other evidence in the case points to the fact that she could have been involved in international espionage or an intelligence operation. The gun was untraceable, as Unsolved Mysteries does describe. The serial number was professionally removed, possibly with acid. Furthermore, she checked into the hotel under a false name, and how she was able to do so without providing a credit card on file remains a mystery, and suggests that she may have had help, likely from whatever organization she may have been working for. Fairgate's belongings found in room 2805 also support the spy theory. She removed all labels from her clothing. Calldagger describes this technique as, quote, common practice for spies, and curiously had monochromatic apparel, much of which is noted as being relatively expensive. Beyond that, Wegener was surprised to learn that the woman didn't have any bottom half garments outside of the tights, hose, and undergarments, nor did she have any toiletries, despite the evidence that she or someone had recently taken a shower in the room. After 3 days...
Okay, that was not what I was trying to do there.
Into the hotel under... removed all labels from clothing. Calldagger...
We're going to
for spies, and curiously had
Okay, so we had to rewind a little bit just because I'm an idiot. So you can see here, even the shoes have any kinds of identification labels, product labels, brand labels removed from them. So these are some of the things she had in her possession in the room. Like I said, oddly enough, she had blouses and top clothing, but no like bottom half clothing. So no like skirts, pants, like shorts, nothing. She had like underwear and like hosiery, and that was it. And that was it. So a little weird. Also weird that all of the clothing labels are missing, even in the shoes are missing. That's weird. That's suspicious.
Monochromatic apparel, much of which is noted as being relatively expensive. Beyond that, Wegener was surprised to learn that the woman didn't have any bottom half garments outside of the tights, hose, and undergarments.
God.
Nor did she have any toiletries, despite the evidence that she or someone had recently taken a shower in the room. Even more puzzling is the total lack of identifying documentation. No passports, identification cards, or credit cards were found amongst her belongings whatsoever. The initial investigation also revealed that a briefcase in the room was found with 25 rounds of ammunition inside of it. The implication being here that she either needed to protect herself from someone or perhaps was trailing someone at the hotel. Yet there were no personal effects, no house keys, no travel receipts, nor any of the items one would expect to find on someone traveling. On the hotel check-in documents, she claimed to have been from a town in Belgium called Verlaine. But research and investigations done in Verlaine reveal that no one can identify the woman or knew her name as Jennifer Fairgate, nor does the address or street she listed on the form actually exist.
So, not a real name, not a real address, real town, but no one recognized her. I also want you guys to store that little nugget of information that she said she was from Belgium away in your heads, because it is going to come into important play later. Also in the episode, in the Unsolved Mysteries episode, they go to the town. So the investigator, he's a journalist who's doing an investigation after the fact, because this case had already been closed not too long after the actual crime. So they go to this town in this Verlaine that she said she was from, and they take this drawing of her. And they show people, they're like, hey, do you know her? Do you know her? She says she's from here. And they showed people who'd lived there for years, and they were like, yeah, we don't, it's a small town. Like, it's a tiny town. We're not talking a major city. We're not talking somewhere you could just like blend in and disappear. This is like a town of like a couple hundred people. Everybody knows everybody. So that's a little weird.
Being unable to identify someone wouldn't be uncommon in a large city, but Verlaine is a relatively small, obscure town with a core group of residents who have lived there for decades. If she was from there, odds are one of these long-term residents would have been able to recognize her. The windows in the room were also found open, but even with a 15-minute window between the gunshot and the time that security breached the room being 28 floors up off the ground, the window seems a highly unlikely method of escape for anyone else who may have been in the room with the victim.
Unless it was Spider-Man. That's all I got on that one. Unless it was Spider-Man or fucking Batman swinging out the window with the greatest of ease, or she was murdered by a circus acrobat, I'm pretty sure we can rule out the window as a method of escape. So just throwing that out there.
Both room keys were also found inside the room, and the room was double locked from the inside, meaning that someone inside the room had to lock it this way, and it would prevent anyone but security from accessing the room. Unfortunately, the Unsolved Mysteries episode doesn't include the most relevant evidence that supports a spy theory. On Friday, June 2nd, the woman ordered bratwurst and potato salad at 8:06 p.m. and provided room service with a sizable tip.
Not bratwurst and potato salad! The meal of kings! The meal of soon-to-be-dead kings. I don't know. No, there's nothing to do with the actual meal. But when the meal was delivered and when the meal was eaten, that comes into some important play. That bratwurst does look really good, though. Damn it, I'm hungry.
Yet, according to a Finnish article translated by a Reddit user, the autopsy revealed that the room service meal was in her stomach contents, suggesting that she ate it the day she died. If Fairgate did indeed kill herself, she would have then eaten 1-day-old room service food before grasping a pistol with her thumb and then pulling the trigger. The mystery woman may have been deeply depressed and maybe didn't necessarily care what she ate, but the collective evidence suggests that she was murdered on Friday, June 2nd, and that the scene inside room 2805 was staged to protect her assassin or assassins. Also, a newspaper with the number 2816 was written on it and found inside room 2805, leaving Kurt Wegner to theorize that Fairgate either had a second room or that she was tracking someone in the hotel.
So, yes, they did find a newspaper with another room number written on it inside of her hotel room. So she, like I said, either had a second room on reserve or somehow had gained access to a second room, or had just gone and taken the paper, like how they leave papers outside of someone's hotel room in the morning, like as part of like the morning, stuff that they do, just like if they bring you sheets and towels and stuff that they used to do. I mean, pre-COVID, some hotels leave a newspaper, like as just a hotel courtesy outside of your door. I've had that happen when I've checked into hotels in California for conventions and stuff like that, and opened the door and almost fucking ate ass because I stepped on a paper that I was not expecting. So it's entirely possible that maybe she knew whoever was staying in the room, which we'll get to in just a second. Whoever was staying in this other room, she was interested in maybe getting their attention somehow. Like maybe she hoped to get, I don't know what you would hope to gain by taking a newspaper from their door that they hadn't touched, or that wasn't, I don't know. Like maybe she was like, hey, if I take the paper, like, or if they hear me outside, they'll open the door and I'll figure out who it is, or I don't know. Very strange. Very weird. Continue. Me.
Wegner discovered through his own investigation of hotel records and official statements from hotel employees that she left her room for approximately 20 hours during her 3-day stay. So perhaps she was trailing somebody at that time.
So that's 72 hours total that she stayed at the hotel. During that 72-hour period, she only left her room for a cumulative 20 hours, which is, less than a day. So she obviously was coming and going here and there, probably at random intervals, because nobody really seemed to like notice her going. Like it wasn't like it was for a business trip and she would like come and go at the same times, it seems like, either. It seems like it was just like here and there at random when people would like notice that she was moving around. So weird.
Wegner's VG reports note that he linked room 2816 to a mysterious quote-unquote Mr. X, a mostly uncooperative Belgian man who claimed that an Oslo Plaza employee informed him about Fairgate's death upon his checkout the morning of Saturday, June 3rd. Also, the mysterious companion listed as Lois Fairgate during Jennifer's check-in was never located or found. In theory, the spy angle suggests that Mr. X, or an accomplice, killed Jennifer on Friday, June 2nd after her room service order. The rest of the evening presumably involved covering up the crime scene, and the corpse, with undigested food inside, would have indeed had an acrid smell after sitting there for several hours. Another fact that the show doesn't acknowledge was that 2 shots were fired from the weapon, one into the woman's forehead and one into a pillow. The Netflix docuseries notes that the security heard a gunshot upon initially knocking on room 2805, so it's possible that someone was still in the room cleaning up the scene after killing Fairgate and fired a warning shot to get rid of the knocker, and then fled in the 15-minute window when the scene was left unattended.
But still, not really sure, I'm not without staying there and actually like examining how the doors would work, because I can imagine probably what happened was, obviously there were 2 shots. Only the second shot was heard. So the killing shot was probably not the one that they heard at the door. That was probably a warning shot, the one fired into the pillow to get rid of whoever it was at the door, to get rid of attention, which I don't know why you would fire a gun. I don't know. I feel like that would draw more attention, but like maybe they were hoping for that window of like, oh, they're going to have to go get somebody because they heard a gunshot. I can sneak out in the time that they go and I could just like book it down the like back stairs or something. The only other thing I can think of would be like how they would lock the room so securely, like double locked. Again, without examining the doors and stuff like that and looking into the doors, it's possible that you could, obviously they don't need the keys, leave the keys in the room, turn the lock, and then just let the door shut behind you on your way out. So it is entirely possible that that's how they got out of the room, but it's still very weird. The room was very secure, very strange. I'm going to say very strange a lot in this episode because there's a lot of very strange shit that happens. So I'm going to continue.
Whatever theory Unsolved Mystery audiences believe, the available evidence appears to eliminate fully a suicide theory. But what was so striking when I was watching the Death in Oslo episode of Unsolved Mysteries that I couldn't help but get an eerie sense of deja vu. The details of the case, such as the woman having a false name, checking into a room with little luggage and no personal belongings, plus suffering a mysterious death that was ruled a suicide, sounded very familiar. Very familiar for anyone, indeed, who is familiar with the case of the Isdal woman that took place also in Norway some 30 years earlier.
I literally was watching that episode on Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix, and I kept going like, is this the case they're talking about? No, I'm like, I kept going back. I was like, no, wait, this is a different case. Like, this is a wholly different case. Because there were so many things that were so similar. BuzzFeed Unsolved covered this one in their series for true crime. So when they were going over this thing of the Death in Oslo, I was like, are they talking about the Isdal woman? I was like, wait, no, it's not the Isdal woman. That was like in the 70s. This is in the 90s. But it was so eerily similar that I could not shake the deja vu out of my fucking head. So let's get into that one.
On the afternoon of the 29th of November, 1970, a man and his 2 young daughters were hiking in the foothills of the north face of Ulriken, in an area known as Isdalen, which is the Ice Valley. It was also nicknamed the Death Valley due to the area's history of suicides in the Middle Ages and a more recent string of hiking accidents. Noting an unusual and powerful burning smell, one of the daughters located the charred body of a woman. Surprised and afraid, the group returned to town to notify the police. Local Bergen police responded quickly and launched a full-scale investigation, filed as case name 134/70. Upon examining the site, police noted the woman's supine position, her hands clenched up by her torso, and the absence of a nearby campfire. The front of her body and her clothes had been severely burned, and she was unrecognizable. Also located, placed near the body, and affected by the fire were an empty bottle of St. Halvard liqueur, 2 plastic water bottles, a plastic passport container, rubber boots, a woolen jumper, a scarf, nylon stockings, an umbrella, a purse, a matchbox, a watch, 2 earrings, and a ring. And a partridge in a motherfucking pear tree. So that was an actual picture of the body that was burned, and you could see like the body was kind of like this. She was on her back, supine, and her hands were kind of up like this, almost in like a very like defensive posture.
But the bodies, to my knowledge, when bodies are burned, or at least I've heard that this can happen when bodies are burned, that they will kind of like shrink up a little. So it's entirely possible that maybe her hands were like down further, and the process of burning as the body kind of like the tissues constricted and burned, and the moisture kind of left the body and like shriveled it up. It's gross, but you kind of turn into a human piece of fucking charcoal. That it raised the arms higher than they may have been in her actual position of death. Either way, that's really odd to find somebody burned. So if you were walking and hiking amongst the forestry, and please forgive my pronunciation on a lot of these Scandinavian names, because I know I am going to butcher them. I'm sure I butchered them horribly, but I did my best. So imagine you were walking along the halls of Ulriken, and you come upon a burned person, a person who is burned and like shriveled up and charred, like you can't recognize their face. They're pretty unrecognizable. What would you think was the manner of death? Like, would you think that to be a natural demise of anybody? Would you think that that was like, they did that to themselves? Hold on, I got bad news for y'all. Around the body were traces of burned paper, and beneath it, a fur hat, which was later found to have traces of gasoline. All identifying marks and labels on these items, strangely, had been removed or rubbed off. 3 days later, investigators found 2 suitcases belonging to the woman at the Bergen railway station. In the lining of one suitcase, police discovered 5 100 Deutschmark notes, which is about $137 in US money in 1970. Among other items, they found clothing, shoes, wigs, makeup, eczema cream with the name and prescription label removed, 135 Norwegian kroner, Belgian, British, and Swiss coins, maps, timetables, a pair of glasses with non-prescription lenses, sunglasses with partial fingerprints that match the body, cosmetics, and a notepad. As with the body, any possible identifying information had been removed. An autopsy at the Goethe Institute concluded that the woman had died from a combination of incapacitation by phenobarbital poisoning and poisoning by carbon monoxide. Soot was found in her lungs, which indicated that she was alive as she was burned. So, that's another big tip-off. Do people usually commit suicide by taking sleeping pills and then setting themselves on fire and doing it while they're alive? Generally, no. I'm going to go with a no on that one. I'm going to go with a big old fat stamp no. I don't know what it is, but that is not it. Also, we're noticing some similarities here already. All of her clothing, same thing, labels removed. Anything that she had with her that could have had personal information on it, such as prescriptions. You can see the tube here in the photo. That was a prescription eczema cream. All of those identifying labels were removed. Even the name of the medication was rubbed off. So we're already seeing some weird similarities with Jennifer Fairgate. Really weird. Hang in there. It gets weirder. I promise. And her neck was bruised, possibly from a fall or from a blow. Analysis of her blood and stomach contents showed that she had consumed between 50 and 70 Phenomol brand sleeping pills, and found next to her body were an extra 12 sleeping pills. At autopsy, her teeth and jaw were removed due to the unique gold-filling dental work, and tissue samples of her organs were taken. Police then launched an appeal for information in the Norwegian media regarding the case. The last time she was seen alive was on the 23rd of November when she checked out of room 407 of the Hotel Hordeheimen. Hotel staff told police that she was good-looking and roughly about 5'4", with dark brown hair and small brown eyes. Staff noted that the woman kept mainly to herself and seemed to be on guard during her stay. When she checked out, she paid her bill in cash and requested a taxi. Her movements between then and the discovery of her body remain unknown. Police were able to decode the notepad entries found amongst her belongings and determined that they indicated dates and places the woman had visited. As a result, based on handwritten check-in forms, police determined that the Isdal woman had traveled around Norway. So the first one is the actual one of the notes. This one is the cipher for the note. So these were what the letters and numbers meant. And they basically decoded that it was places she had been. So she had this weird cipher. You know, is that something somebody normally does when they're traveling? Do they write their destinations and where they have been? Most people just keep a travel journal. This bitch kept a fucking Sudoku goddamn puzzle in her journal. Like, no. That is not normal. On the scale of normal, not normal at all. Also, she seemed kind of weird. They said she seemed kind of on guard. She seemed kind of like she was watching herself, watching people around her. That's also a whole lot of fucking sleeping pills. Like, the double dipped chicken fried audacity. Like, that's 70 sleeping pills, between 50 and 70 sleeping pills. That's like that's enough to kill multiple people. And the fact that didn't even really wait for the sleeping pills to kick in, the fact that she was still alive when she was burned. Really weird. And 6 days unaccounted for. She disappears from the hotel, checks out on the 23rd, and her body is not found until the 29th. That's a whole 6-day window of we don't know where she went and what happened, but all we know is that she ended up dead. I hope whoever it was has extra pockets and wears cargo pants for all this audacity they are carrying around. And yes, it does very much feel like a spy situation. We're going to get more into this.
Through Oslo, Trondheim, and Stavanger, and through Europe into Paris with at least 8 fake passports and aliases. While details such as birthdays and occupations ranged from one form to another, she consistently gave her nationality as Belgian. The forms were either filled out in German or French.
Ding, 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 ding. There we go. Second similarity. So not only did we have the similarities in these cases of all the clothing labels being removed, but we have yet another strange woman with mysterious movements claiming they are from Belgium. What? I feel like I should have one of those Charlie Day fucking conspiracy boards behind me with the red threads on it, because I was like, when I heard that, I went, has anyone else like it? No? Okay. That's weird. That's a weird similarity. I thought that was really strange. Yes, International Woman of Mystery. The only big difference between the two cases is the fact that Jennifer Fairgate was found with no identification at all. And this woman was found with an overabundance of identification. Like, she was found with 9 fake passports, 9 fake identities. Still obviously don't know her real identity, but she was found with all of the documents where the other one had none. So I don't know if they just like the spy game got upped. Oh, spy game. If that got upped in the 30 years hence from this, that they were like, yeah, that's a little like on the nose. Maybe we won't do that. And it seems so fucking obvious. So maybe they got a little bit more subtle. I would hope so. Being spies and all, you know, kind of subtlety is your craft, your spy craft, as it were.
It was also learned that the woman had previously stayed at several hotels in Bergen and was known to change rooms frequently after checking in. She often told hotel staff that she was a traveling saleswoman and antiquities dealer. One witness said that she overheard the woman talking to a man in German in a Bergen hotel. Others who met her mentioned she also spoke Flemish and broken English and smelt oddly of garlic. People who saw or met her also commented on the fact that she wore wigs. Composite sketches based on witness descriptions and analysis of her body were then circulated in many countries via Interpol. Despite the significant police resources deployed, the unknown woman was never identified, and the case was quickly closed. While authorities concluded that she had committed suicide by ingestion of sleeping pills, others believe that there is evidence that she was murdered.
Weird.
On the 5th of February 1971, the woman was given a Catholic burial based on her use of saints' names on check-in forms in an unmarked grave within the Mollendal graveyard in Bergen. Attended by 16 members of the Bergen police force, she was buried in a zinc coffin to both preserve her remains and for ease of disinterment. Her ceremony was also photographed in case relatives came forward at a later date. Many questions remain about the case, especially the reasons for the woman's identities and unexplained travel plans. Multiple investigations point to the possibility that she was a spy, giving the Cold War context of the time. Norway had also experienced other strange disappearances in the 1960s close to military installations, which also traced back to international espionage. The declassified records of the Norwegian armed forces also reveal that many of the Isdal woman's movements seem to correspond to the top-secret trials of the Penguin missile, which was an anti-ship missile at the time. A fisherman is also reported to have recognized the unknown woman while observing military movements in Stavanger. The possession of 9 fake passports also imply the involvement of a very professional organization. Similarly, counterintelligence activities by Mossad in Europe at the time may also be linked.
So those are some more of the pictures of the stuff that was found with her that was affected by the fire. It looks like either, and here's the thing, if she indeed killed herself, that and took a whole boatload, all of the fucking sleeping pills, not just 1, not just 2, not 5, not all of them. This woman did not leave sleeping pills for nobody. The fact that she just overglutted her system to the fact, but then if, say, she succumbed to the effect of said sleeping pills, how would she have caught herself on fire? And how would you have been cognizant enough and not so under the influence to then be able to dump fuel on yourself and burn yourself alive? Like, you're going to be way too incapacitated under the effect of that much medication to do that to yourself. So it really points to at least a second person being at the scene where she died. So Polly makes a very good point. Isn't there a poison that makes people smell like garlic? There might be. Maybe she was, or maybe it's a something. They don't say she was a smoker. No, they didn't find any cigarettes, or at least not that there was any evidence. But they found traces of gasoline on a hat and paper that was under the body. So there was an accelerant used to burn her alive. Like, they did find traces of petrol or gasoline. So either she took a whole bunch of sleeping pills, like funneled them down her throat, and then dumped gasoline on herself, and then woof. But no, who's gonna do that? That's overkill. Like, none of that makes any kind of sense. So it points to at least 1 or 2 other people being there that would have to have engineered. And plus, like, all of her, like, her jewelry was removed and like laid to the side. Her possessions were just kind of like laid there. And it was almost like they were trying to destroy her and everything around her. Because as you can see in these photos, these are things that were found with her that were also destroyed or affected by the fire. The zinc coffin was used to preserve her remains. They basically wanted to make them last as long as possible in case somebody came to identify her. Or in case they needed to disinter her. A zinc coffin is retardant to decomposition, and it keeps a lot of the moisture and the things out that tend to accelerate decomposition. So it's going to keep her remains preserved as long as possible in hopes that they can either like exhume her and to do tests. That was the reason behind the zinc coffin. Her hands were not tied behind her back as far as I know. Her hands were found like this. So they may, if they were tied at one point, they were not tied when they found her. There was no trace of rope on her. Her hands were actually found in like a defensive position, kind of like this above her, around her face, almost like in a shadow boxing position. If you're a very good assassin, you would not be leaving a jug of gas. If she did it herself, Dantex, if she did it herself, there would be a jug of gasoline or a jug of accelerant. The only thing that was found was a bottle of liqueur, like a bottle of booze, not gasoline, that was found near her body. But yeah, if you committed suicide, you would have left that behind. You would have left a bottle with traces of alcohol or of gasoline in it. So it just gets weirder and weirder. The more like you pick at the details and the more you pull at the threads here, it just gets more and more like or I guess I should say less and less likely that she did this herself. No, yeah, no, her hands were like this. It was like they were in a weird position, almost as if maybe she saw something coming. Plus, she had a neck wound that was also found during the autopsy. Past all of the burning, she was found to have a neck wound. So, why? Like a bruise around the neck that was either caused by they think either a blunt instrument or a fall. So she did have an injury to her body that could have been it could have been a strangulation mark. It could have been, but unfortunately the burning kind of destroyed a lot of that. But yeah, it just gets weirder and weirder.
The taxi driver who took the woman from the hotel to the Bergen railway station was never found. In 1991, however, a taxi driver wishing to remain anonymous said that after picking up the unknown woman at the hotel, they were joined by another man before reaching the station. In 2005, a Bergen resident who was 26 in 1970 told a local newspaper that after seeing the sketch circulated, he had suspected that the dead woman was a woman he had seen 5 days before the body was discovered when he was hiking on the hillside at Fløyen. Surprisingly, she was dressed lightly for the city rather than for a hike and was walking ahead of two men wearing coats who looked quote-unquote Southern. She appeared resigned and seemed about to say something to him, but then did not. He went to someone he knew at the police to report this, but was told to forget about it.
That's weird. The fact that you see this woman, she obviously looks like she might be in distress because it looks like she wanted to say something to this man when she's being accompanied by these two gentlemen, which they looked Southern. I still don't know what that means. Hey, y'all. I was like, were they wearing bib overalls? Like, what does that mean? They look Southern. The fuck does that mean, dude? Obviously they didn't look like, to his vernacular, it sounds like he was like, they weren't look like they from around here. They not from around these parts at all. So she's in the company of two strange men who do not look like they are local. She looks at him and looks like she wants to say something to him. She is clearly in a state of possible distress, decides not to say something to him. He goes to the police and says, hey, I saw this lady. She was kind of weirdly dressed. She wasn't really dressed for a hike, and she was with these two dudes in bib overalls. They weren't in bib overalls. I don't fucking know. And the cops go, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, yeah, forget about it. What in the fractious, fantabulous, freeform fuck? No, that's the opposite of police work. Somebody comes to you and says, yeah, hey, I think I saw a crime being committed. Yeah, you should probably just forget about it. Wait, what? Like, yeah, I don't want to get up from my desk. Like, I don't like paperwork. No, like, wow. Like, that's suspicious. That's weird.
Therefore, neither his name nor his alleged sighting was recorded at the time. In 2016, the case was reopened, and authorities commissioned American artist Stephen Missal to create 6 alternative sketches of the Isdal woman, which were shown to people who had seen her. In 2017, a stable isotope analysis of the woman's teeth, taken from her unburied jawbone, indicated that the woman had been born in about 1930, plus or minus 4 years, in or near Nuremberg, Germany, but had moved to France or the France-Germany border as a child. She was likely also raised in French-speaking Belgium. This reinforced early analysis of her handwriting, which suggested that she had been either educated in France or a neighboring country. Analysis also indicated that she had been to a dentist in either East Asia, Central Europe, Southern Europe, or South America. In 2018, NRK and the BBC published a podcast series titled Death in Ice Valley, which included interviews with eyewitnesses and forensic scientists. In June 2019, the BBC revealed that listeners of the podcast had given some more clues.
Okay, so point of order, I just noticed this as I'm going through the photos of the things that were found with her. Okay, so we did see some flasks. One we know was a liquor bottle, for sure. Okay, so we found some little bottles. Who laces boots like this if they're going to wear them? No, nobody. Is that not strange? Look at how these things are. They're like barely laced. You wouldn't even wear them like this. And then stable isotope tests are very cool because they basically analyze how stable isotope testing works is that it analyzes your teeth and it analyzes the isotopes that have been deposited in your teeth from drinking water. And because that varies from region to region, they can narrow down where you were from, where you spent your childhood, your formative years. So they can analyze all of that through the enamel of your teeth due to the water supply. So that's how they were able to narrow down her location as to where she was potentially born, where she potentially grew up. Also, the very unique dental work that she had, the gold fillings, the gold work that she had in her teeth was very unique, and it was very unique to certain regions of the world where she would have had this done. So it really narrows it down. But yeah, also I just thought that was weird about the boots. Sorry.
Further, Colleen Fitzpatrick, a geneticist with the DNA Doe Project, contacted the Ice in the Valley team to offer her help in identifying the woman through genetic genealogical isotope testing of autopsied tissues. Sadly, despite offerings of DNA and genealogical testing, the Isdal woman remains unidentified to this day. Was she a spy or an intelligence agent? The strange evidence and circumstances that surround her death seem to suggest this as a possibility. There is no denying the odd similarities between this case and that of the mysterious and also still unidentified woman known as Jennifer Fairgate. Did she also have ties to the intelligence community, as evidence gathered at the crime scene suggests? Perhaps. In 1995, at the time of her death, E-14 was a unit that operated within the intelligence service of Norway. Its existence was known to few, and its focus was covert missions abroad. It was also most active between the years of 1995 and 2005. Male and female agents, originally 140 individuals in the unit, would work together to gather human intelligence, which is intelligence gained by interpersonal contact, as opposed to more technical intelligence gathering such as signals intelligence, imagery intelligence, and measurement signature intelligence.
So this is the shield, the crest. I keep pointing the wrong direction, as it were, of the Norwegian Intelligence Service. Can anybody tell me, for bonus points and a shout out? Yeah, I know my opening of my bottle, I'm like trying to be really quiet. Can anyone tell me, for bonus points and a shout out, why it would have two ravens on the shield? Those are ravens. Bonus points if you get it. If not, don't worry about it. It's kind of obscure. I just thought it was cool. A cool little bit of trivia. So the reason it has two, anyone have any other answers other than DJ's fuck if I know? Because that's not really an answer. That's more of a, it's more of a shrug. It's more of a verbal shrug. So the two ravens, we'll give you a hint. It's mythological in nature. If that gives any hints. I don't want to give it away too much, but that might have been a really big hint. I feel like playing the Jeopardy music, the Jeopardy countdown, Final Jeopardy. I don't have it, and I probably would get copyright strike, so I can't do it. Okay, time is up. So the reason that it has two ravens on it is because those are representative of the two ravens, Hugin and Mugen, which are the two ravens of Odin. Yes. Electric Pagan got it. So those are the two ravens that serve Odin, and are his spies, are his eyes and ears when he is not present. So I thought that was a fun little pagan piece of trivia that they decided to include in their crest for the Norwegian spy service, which I thought was like, oh, that's very appropriate.
Not to mention that ever since the quote-unquote end of the Cold War, Russia and Norway have gone back and forth in the international espionage game. If the days of spy versus spy ended with the toppling of the Soviet Union, no one bothered to tell these two. They have been locked in a dispute over fishing rights and petroleum exploration rights in the Barents Sea for more than 40 years. In fact, as recently as 2020, a Norwegian citizen was arrested after allegedly meeting a Russian intelligence officer at an Oslo restaurant for the purposes of espionage. A Russian diplomat was also expelled from the country in connection with the case.
That was only in 2020, y'all.
Prior to that, Norway's most recent known spy case involving Russia revolved around retired Norwegian border inspector Frode Berg, who was sentenced in Russia in 2019 to 14 years in prison for espionage. He was arrested in Moscow in December 2017 and had been accused of collecting information about Russian nuclear submarines for Norwegian intelligence. It's unclear whether the present cases from 2019 and 2020 were as big as the arrest in 1984 of Arne Treholt, who was convicted of treason and espionage on behalf of the Soviet Union against Norway during the Cold War and given a 20-year prison sentence. He was released from prison in 1992 and subsequently moved to Russia. With the Cold War seeming never to have actually died out, at least among the intelligence community between Russia and Norway, was it possible that Jennifer Fairgate, whoever she actually was, had ties to either country as an agent or a spy? It seems entirely possible. But even these aren't the only strange incidents of missing persons in Norway. These two cases also show odd similarities with a person discovered on railroad tracks between Moss and Oslo, known only as the Combo Man. On September 22, 1987, a train traveling from Moss to Oslo was notified by a passing train coming in the direction from Oslo to be careful, as there appeared to be something obstructing the tracks between Moss and Combo in the direction that the train was heading. It was just past 8 in the morning. As the commuter train, driven by engineer Svein Ivar Johansen and conductor Roger Aesrud, approached the Combo mill, they drove slowly. Engineer Ivar claimed that he then saw what appeared to be a case or a garbage bag laying in the middle of the tracks. On closer inspection, he realized that it was a body. He stopped the train and got out for a closer look. The body was that of a man between 50 and 60 years old, lying prone on his stomach on the left side of the track. The right arm and the foot are separated from the rest of the body. The man was wearing ordinary clothes, and nothing else seemed to be particularly remarkable about the remains. He was carrying a pocket knife and a soft pack of Camel cigarettes on his person, but authorities otherwise find no other identification on the man whatsoever.
Ding, 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 ding. Third similarity. Man found in the middle of train tracks, obviously run over or hit by a train due to the trauma of the body, but no identification. And I know what you're thinking. Viv, that's easy. Maybe he was a bum. Maybe. I don't think so.
Even stranger, they find all of the labels of his clothing cut out or removed, much like in the case of Jennifer Fairgate and the Isdal woman. At the time the body is found, the location where it is found speaks volumes, as this was highly inaccessible outside of the railway. One side of the track was bordered by sea and a cliff, and the other was a steep slope with mountains and dense forest, not someplace that someone would be walking or hiking of their own accord. Upon forensic investigation, it was determined that the man had been in good health for his age and was not under the influence of alcohol or drugs at the time of his death.
Until he met an unfortunate train. It would be called death by train, not death by anything else. Yeah, like this man like straight up canceled his life insurance policy with a fucking train. Like 100%, that'll do it. The labels, like Dante said, why take the labels? The reason the labels, I guess, are removed from clothing, especially if they can't trace back where they were purchased, who purchased them, because you could always go back to a boutique or perhaps a store that sold this particular brand of clothing. You could trace it back that way. It's a minor thing that you could do, but you could trace things back that way through like, oh, they purchased it in this country. Oh, they purchased it at this store. Oh, when was this in stock at this store? Okay, well, it was in stock between this time and this time. Okay, well, how many were sold during that time? And you can kind of like trace things down that way. But that would really be, and plus if it's like if it's a rare clothing brand, especially that you're like, that's weird. Like most places don't sell this. Or you could even trace the country that it was purchased from if it was not purchased from that country. So that's kind of why, yeah, we don't believe in labels, man. Like, we don't believe in labels. Clearly don't believe in labels.
The cause of death was multiple injuries related to being in an accident involving being struck or run over by a train.
That'll do
it. Death
it.
was ruled as a suicide as there was no outward evidence of foul play. Sketches and photographs of the mystery combo man were circulated throughout the media in Norway, but no one is able to identify the deceased. Throughout the autumn of 1987, it becomes increasingly clear to the police that this man can't be Norwegian. If so, someone should have reported him missing. Helge Jodalen and his colleagues at the crime department in Moss start investigating the only label found in the clothing of the deceased. They also do thorough research on the cigarette pack found in the man's pocket. They are confirmed that the Camel cigarettes are manufactured in the West but were intended for the Eastern European market, as the quality of tobacco is worse than the cigarettes sold in the West. The cigarette package should have had a label that told where it's produced, but this does not exist. The tracks point to Eastern Europe. Eventually, the investigation stops and the case is transferred to the ID Commission of the then Criminal Police Center. A so-called black notice is also sent out to the member countries of Interpol. Such a note contains images of the deceased, fingerprints of the corpse, and other information such as height, weight, as well as images of some of the clothing that they were wearing at the time. Messages back from Interpol, though, are negative. No one is able to identify the man, even through fingerprints, and no one matching the description of the deceased, nor what he is wearing, fits any reported missing person. And though the Combo Man, or Cambrian Man as he is later known, clearly did not wish to be identified, small hints to where he may have come from are found in the garments he was wearing at the time of his death.
Point of order. Even though they sent out a black notice, they also sent out black notices through Interpol for the Isdal woman and for Jennifer Fairgate, neither of which were identified either through these black notices that do send out descriptions of clothing, physical descriptions, fingerprints, photos, sketches, anything like that to be identified. Nobody came back with anything, did not match any missing persons. However, if somebody is a spy and is a covert agent, that's not going to be something you're going to be like, yeah, that's one of ours. That's one of our spies. Oh, fuck. Like, damn it. You don't want to tip your fucking hand at that point. You know, like, you're going to be like, oh yeah, you know, Fred. Yeah, he was one of ours. He was one of our spies. Oh, damn, he's dead. That sucks. Like, no. If it was a spy, you're not going to say shit. Like, you're going to just be like, he's dead. That's weird. I don't know who that is.
One clothing label remained intact out of all of the others that were removed, and this was on the underwear he was wearing. The label was Elan Body, and the description on the tag is written in German. The clothes were of cheaper quality, perhaps second-hand even, but the shoes the man was wearing were considerably expensive. They were Mephisto brand, which was a relatively uncommon brand at the time. They were recommended usually for engineers and architects who were out in the field and needed solid, good footwear, or for people with health challenges. Even more intriguing is what is found inside the left shoe. A small piece of paper was found taped inside of the left shoe. On the note is written a number, 15250. The way that the numbers were written, according to experts, were typical of a very, quote, German style of writing, especially with the number 1, which is written almost like a V.
How did you take down Captain America? We shot him in the legs because his shield is the size of a dinner plate and he is an idiot. That's all I could picture here in my head when I was taking these notes. It was like a very German style of writing. That is all that popped in my head. I was like, did he put lines through his sevens? What constitutes a German way of writing numbers? Is there something I am unaware of here? But I guess it was the way that the 1 is written, because it's written kind of like a V, like a very sharp, kind of like this. I don't know, but it's a little weird. A strange number. Again, the Isdal woman is found with a cipher on her person or in her belongings. This guy is found with no identification, no labels in his clothing, save for a label in the underwear and a note with a number in his shoe, which were a very uncommon brand of shoes. Also, These shoes were recommended for people with health challenges. During the autopsy, he was found to be wearing just like pretty regular cheap clothing. But he was found to be wearing like medical socks, like compression socks that are typically worn by people with like diabetes or circulation problems. So that could be why he owned these shoes. However, they did say during the autopsy that he was in good health, other than his unfortunate run-in, literally, with a train. So it begs a lot of questions as to, like, did he have health issues? Like, there were obviously enough remains, like, his remains were, like, nicked up by the train, but they weren't, like, pulverized by the train. Like, he was still recognizable, as you could see in that photo. Like, he was still pretty much intact, other than an arm and a foot being not attached to the body anymore. So it was interesting that they were like, no, he was in good health, and like, but he was wearing like compression socks and had these like very strange shoes with a number in them. It could mean anything.
So it was possible that the mystery man was German or spent time in Germany, but how did he get to the middle of a set of train tracks in Norway? Years later, a transit driver heard of the case of the mystery man and put together some pieces of a 30-year-old puzzle. He had loaded up cargo in Italy in 1987 and was driving from there through Switzerland and into Germany when he stopped to eat dinner. When he returned to his truck, he noticed something strange. A hole the size of a human hand in the shape of a triangle had been cut into the tarp canvas covering the trailer. The driver thought nothing more of it and drove home to Norway, parking at Combo. It is here where he is picked up by his wife to rest for a day at home before continuing to drive his cargo to Oslo. As he exits the trailer to meet his wife, he heard a strange sound, almost like a carton fell. His wife says she didn't hear anything, and they think no more of it, leaving the truck unattended for the evening. The next morning, when the driver returned to his truck, he found a large hole now cut in the canvas tarp, big enough for a man to crawl out of. At first, he thought it might be the work of thieves or vandals, but finds none of the cargo from his truck missing or unaccounted for. It didn't occur to him until 30 years later that where he originally parked the trailer, the railways could be seen from this location. The tracks went through here to Combo Mill and onto Moss, and this is where the man was found dead on that September morning in 1987.
Also, rewind, what was the man found with on his person other than no identification? He was found with a pack of cigarettes that they could trace back to East Germany and a pocket knife that he could have used to cut open a tarp. Threads are all coming together, and I am going to get assassinated.
It would not be uncommon to follow train tracks in order to reach a city or civilization, as usually tracks do lead into more populated areas. But why would this man, if he did, have stowed away on a truck bound for Norway? And why would he sit for 3 days in a truck trailer all the way from Italy only to commit suicide in a strange location? Unfortunately, that is something we may never have the answer to. DNA profiles have been obtained from the bloodstains on the Combo man's clothing, but no profile matches have been made thus far. Though one thing is for certain, it seems less and less likely the more the evidence is analyzed that this was a suicide. An accidental death when he attempted to catch another train? Perhaps. But this begs the question of where the Cambrian man was going. And was he fleeing from someone? Was it possible that, like the Isdal woman and Jennifer Fairgate, he was working with intelligence from Germany? This was indeed the height of the Cold War, so acts of espionage between Eastern Bloc and Soviet countries and Western countries was very common. Will we ever have answers as to the identities of the individuals in these strange, mysterious deaths? One can only hope so. And though DNA profiles have been obtained, no matches to any living or dead persons have been made in any of the cases to date. If these individuals had ties to the intelligence community or were active spies at the time of their deaths, it's entirely possible that their identities are being kept secret due to the sensitive nature of the work or missions that they may have been involved in at the times of their deaths as well. It wouldn't be the first time that governments have engaged in black ops against rival nations where they stand to gain knowledge of the inner workings of an enemy regime or a foothold on natural resources. Perhaps, for the safety of all concerned, it is better left unsolved.
And that, my lovely viewers, listeners, whatever, is the tale of Crimson Snow and the 3 odd cases, all in Norway, of mysterious people still unidentified that have met strange ends that were declared suicides, but everything around it seems really freaking fishy. Like, really fishy. So just throwing that out there, I'm like, here's the thing. I don't believe in coincidences, really, like generally, and I'm shaking my fucking camera. I don't believe in coincidences. So the fact that all of these things kind of line up and there's very similar circumstances between these deaths, between them not being identified, to this day, nobody has come forward to identify these individuals. The fact that they, it's really weird. Like, they had fingerprints, nothing. Nobody's come forward to claim them. It's really strange. And the thing is, if it's spies, which, yeah, I know, it's nice knowing me. I might have just, again, watch list. Please check, make sure I don't have the red laser here. I don't see it on the camera, but I'm just double checking. Yeah, it's way too coincidental. Like, the similarities between the cases are way too coincidental, and I don't believe in coincidence. Labels removed from clothing. Mysterious circumstances of death that were all immediately ruled suicides, that were really weird ways to commit suicide. Nobody kills themselves like this with a gun. Nobody takes 50 sleeping pills and then sets themselves on fire. Nobody, well, people do commit suicide by train, but it's a really rare way of committing suicide. So that, and the fact that two of them claim to be from Belgium, like, it's really weird. It's really weird. And I was just like, the further I dug and the further, USA spies got to them first, maybe, especially if they were spying for an enemy country, if they weren't working for Norway, which I guess in Norway, it's a very uncommon thing to be unidentified, because it's, the country has a decent population, obviously. It's not a huge country, but I guess according to Norwegian authorities, it's very uncommon for somebody to be found dead anywhere and not to be identified, and not to be like, oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, that's this person, because it is such a centralized population. So it's entirely possible that these were all foreign agents that were from a different country, that were operating under the grid in Norway and happened to get caught, and not in a good way, and were either forced to commit suicide or were killed in the line of whatever they were doing. I don't know. I do know that from declassified, files in the United States, from CIA files, because I did an event years ago. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats, with George Clooney and I forget who else is in it, but it's about MK Ultra and the experiments the CIA was doing at the time for like psychic attacks and things like the CIA in the 60s got into some real fucking weird shit. So they were trying to do like, mental attacks and like telepathy and shit. I met the actual person that George Clooney's character in the movie was based on. He was a former CIA agent, and his like stories were fucking crazy. Like, for the shit that he could talk about, that he was allowed to talk about, because there was a lot that he was not, to this day, and this was in the 2000s. This was like 2012, 2013, that he was not allowed to talk about. And he's like an older man. Like they have retired spy conventions, and I actually got to host a retired spy convention when I worked at one of my former jobs, which is so cool. Like, they were spies when it was cool to be a spy, like during the spy versus spy, like, Soviets versus, United States, like that was like when they both were agents and they were field agents. So the fact that like there's so many weird things that I know that the CIA did, not to mention that, so a lot of these practices could have gone to other countries. It's, you would think, there's things you're like, they didn't actually do that. They did. And they tried it. It didn't work, but they still fucking tried it. So nothing escapes me and my surprise meter, basically, in that regard, as far as intelligence and spies and shit like that. You know, spies like us, spies like them. Does anyone have any? Yeah, they were cool dudes. You know what's really funny? Anecdote time. Sorry, I know it's a little longer than an hour, but I walked them over to the section because we didn't have a big espionage or CIA section in our history section at the store I worked at. I worked at a bookstore. And the books we did have, it was like a shelf worth. They went over there and they were looking at the books, and I was like, okay, well, do you guys want me to order these for the event? Because it was for all retired agents who had been working. Yeah. Like, and they were like, oh yeah, I remember that guy working. And they were pointing at like the author and stuff like that, like the author of the book. And they were like, yeah, we remember him. Nobody liked him. He was an asshole. And I was like, that's hilarious, because that's like one of the biggest like books in this section. They were like, yeah, nobody liked him. He was a dick. I was like, this is amazing. Please tell me more secrets, but don't actually, because like I don't want to die. One of them, the older gentleman, the other gentleman that was with him, worked at a college as well. Like he worked at, I don't know if anyone's familiar and read Da Vinci Code. I did read Da Vinci Code. I don't really care. But I worked at a bookstore, so Da Vinci Code was like the thing for like 6 years. Opus Dei in the Da Vinci Code is like, you know, the basically Shiite Catholic secret organization within Catholicism that's like super like to the rules. And they like, you know, the crazy like monk in the movie that's the bad guy, I guess, is part of Opus Dei and shields the Vatican secrets and whatever. I don't know. And he's like, yeah, he goes, I taught at an Opus Dei college. And he goes, none of that shit is true. Like none of that super secret organization, they flagellate themselves and they whip themselves. He's like, none of that's true. He's like, that, hey, I don't know where he got any of his information from. He's like, but it's wrong. I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe just, you know, tell Dan Brown, let's get him on the phone, that his shit is wrong. Please, because I'm tired of fucking selling this book. I'm tired of it. Had it officially. Paul Bettany. Yeah, Paul Bettany was the creepy albino monk in that movie. Also plays Vision in the Marvel movies, and he's the voice of Jarvis in the Marvel movies as well, which is weird. Paul Bettany always likes to play weird, like random, like fucking albinos in movies. Do you ever notice that in the movie Priest? He's in that movie too, and I was like, what the fuck, Paul Bettany? What is wrong with you? Why do you hate pigment? Why do you hate? I don't understand. Why are you always a creepy pale weirdo? So yeah, there's all kinds of fun stories. That was a fun convention. I got government clearance to go to an active military base that is actually not far from me to listen to this man speak about Area 51 and aliens and shit, which that was a whole other topic that I was like, yeah, they could still probably kill me for that. So please don't. Like, I really want to know, but I don't at the same time. We good, fam. Like, I don't. Oh, yeah. So that was fun. Getting special military clearance to go onto an actual military, like active Air Force base to listen to a former spy speak about shit that happened at Area 51. Fuck yeah, I've led a pretty fucking cool life. So I do some cool things in Dead Ass in A Knight's Tale. Yes, he was at A Knight's Tale. That's very true. Probably his least creepy pale role that he was in. He was pretty pale, but like, also that motherfucker's married to Jennifer Connelly. Like, I don't. In what realm? In what the audacity of this pale ass unseasoned cheese stick of a man to be married to the woman from Labyrinth? No, sir. No, you are not allowed. Denied. Unpermitted. Unbebothered. Active. I can't get on active bases because I'm not military. So that was cool. They had to like actually like, you know, they check my ID and everything and like make sure I'm not a terrorist or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, do I look like a terrorist? Carry a weapon of mass destruction. It's my fucking mouth. Boom. Anyways, before I get too hammered on my tea that's totally just tea and nothing else in here. It's called a shamrocks and shit, by the way. If you want the recipe, please ask me. I will gladly give it to you. Yeah, you have to be like signed on, with somebody that's either been in the military or has like military like relatives. Yeah, totally intrinsic. Yeah, I'm down. Let's go. Let's fucking go. He's covered in purple pigment. Yeah, I was like, maybe he's like, I've been so pale and no one has told me. Like he was covered in paint as Vision. That's so funny. I bet he was really easy to paint because he's so pale. Like, I bet they didn't have to use, they're like, yeah, we're not going to need that much paint. They're not going to need that. You know what? Send those buckets back. We don't need that much. Like, I've barely done anything and this man is already purple. Like, send it back. He's a weird looking dude. Anyways. So does anyone have any questions about the cases as I get to... I need more ice for that, but it's... Does anyone have any questions that you were unclear on the case? Cases, I guess, because there were 3 of them. So many questions. I know, so many questions. I mean, okay, like throw me your questions and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability because there are honestly things that I'm like, I don't know. There are still so many things of unknown in this. And yes, I'm wearing green, but I dare somebody to try to fucking pinch me. I dare them. I wish a motherfucker would. Anyone have anything they were just like missed a detail, maybe not clear on? I'd be glad to clear it up for you. I look like a combination of like a fucking like Viking and the fucking Wendy's mascot. I don't know what I was thinking with this look. Anyways. But yeah, if you guys team rewatch it and you have any questions, either you can email them to me. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to throw my little banner up here. Just 1 second. You can send it to me through email. You can send it to me through a message on Instagram. You can send it to me on Messenger. You can post it in the comments below this video if you have any questions. If there's something you're watching and you think about it. Yeah, like I seriously look like fucking Freya and the fucking Wendy's. I'm going to go, dude, guys. I want to go to Wendy's like this and just stick my head through the drive-thru and see. Look, I have freckles too. Like, I want to stick my head through the drive-thru and see how they react. Be like, don't make me come in there. Give me my fucking square burger. They're like, oh shit, she's here. I'm gonna roll in like I own the joint. Yes, I am very funny. Thank you. I have my Dropkick Murphy shirt on, by the way. So if anyone's... St. Patrick's Day. Heck yeah. Tell him Dave sent me. He's dead. What's wrong with you? I say you, he did. But now you can't unsee it. Exactly. Like, I can't unsee this. Like, I was like, pigtails. I was like, just to keep the hair out of my way while I'm doing this. And fucking, I look like the goddamn Wendy's girl. It's kind of a look, though. I'm not mad at it. I feel like I'm not mad. I'm not mad at it at all. I feel like I could get a free Frosty. What do you guys think? Can I get a free Frosty with this look? Not the vanilla Frosty. What kind of sociopath orders a vanilla Frosty? Riddle me that, Batman. Ew. I have a cat, one of my cats, who is not unfortunately with me anymore, but I always used to go and get her the little snack size Frosty from Wendy's, like the little teeny itty bitty one. And she would always get the first, like I'd open it up and just set it out for her, and she would get the first pass on it, and then I would eat it. Yeah, chocolate Frosty, exactly. What kind of sociopath? What kind of program? No. Dude, I want some Wendy's now, though. I might have to Postmate something. Well, if no one has any questions, and I'm just kind of rambling about Wendy's now at this point. If no one has any questions, I will go ahead and end it here. And then I don't know if I'll have one next week because let me look at my calendar really quick because I'm actually going out of town. So it may have to wait until the following week to do our female serial killer. Next week I should be okay, but please bear with me because that is also the week that Paraflix launches. So I don't know what that's going to look like. Side note, there is a link for Paraflix in the video description. If you guys are interested in the paranormal content that I'm going to continue to be doing, the paranormal content is going to be shifting over to Paraflix. So do subscribe. I will have a subscription code that's going to be my individual code. So I get actually money back for new subscribers. And as soon as I get my code, I will let you guys know what it is. I will post it on social media. So if you sign up with my code, I get like extra money back for that, for new people signing up. So I'd appreciate it if you use my code. Thank you very much. But I will let you guys know immediately as soon as I get it. And then the following week, I will be out of town. So I will not be doing a week on episode a week. I won't be doing a week either. I won't be doing an episode on the 31st because I will be in Ely doing scouting for the 2 shows that I work for. So yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I hope if you guys, if I do mysteriously go missing, you'll know this is the episode why. Just send the police this episode. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, she's fucked. she dead. She is dead. But yeah, so thanks guys so much. Thank you for all the support. Yes, the 2 best shows. I agree, Dantex. I agree. I do work for the 2 best shows out there. And they are awesome investigators. Also, I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know if y'all saw this on my channel. It's going to take a second because oh, look at this. Guess who's going to be doing some solo shit? Hell yeah. That's going to be coming in a little while. So hang in there. I got more stuff for you guys. I got more content. I got solo investigations coming up, y'all. So we will leave it there for the time being. And I will see you guys on the flip side next week when we tackle a female serial killer. I haven't decided which one yet, so it'll be a surprise. Me and Jason. Oh, totally. It would just be me and Jason pointing cameras at each other going, did you hear that? No. Did you hear that? No. Like, suicide with 2 in the head and 1 in the chest. Yes. Me and Epstein. Yeah, it would just be me and Jason pointing cameras at each other going like, no, I didn't hear that. Did you hear that? No, I didn't hear that either. All right, sweet. Let's go. I think we're done here. That would be fun. When Jason is in town, when he is in the area, because he does travel a little bit, if I don't get down there to go see him, I will try to grab him when he is in my area. And I would love to do like just one with Jason at like the Cabin in the Sky or something. Just to see, just because I'm psychotic and I love to go to dark, scary places and I want to find out what's in there. The darker, the better, the scarier, the better, and the creepier, the better. Like if you tell me like, hey, this house had 20 murders in it and it has a basement, I'm already like grabbing my shit and I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, when are we going? Can I get the keys? Can you unlock it? I want to go. So thank you, everybody. Have an amazing night. I will catch you guys next week. Have a good one. And oh, don't forget, stay spooky and try not to get murdered by spies. Just saying. Okay, bye.